Welcome to Facilities First, episode 12, I believe, sponsored by Hero Facility Services. Today, I'm lucky enough to have Josh Amy with WKS Restaurant Group. Josh, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you. Excited
Man,
to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I know we got some fun talk that we're going to have, but last I checked, WKS was right around 400 stores that y'all have.
Yeah, right around 400.
Okay, so as you know, I told you I started this because I wanted to put a spotlight on the guys and the girls that are doing the behind the scenes, because y'all are the people that people never notice until it says store closed, right?
Right.
But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and start off. Interesting fact: when we were speaking, found out that you have a passion, maybe some call it an addiction, to speed. So not that kind of speed, but my first question to you is 69 Camaro SS or a 1970 Dodge Challenger RT. Tell me why.
Ooh, we're gonna make a lot of people mad. Completely, original stock mint condition. I'm taking the Challenger all day long. It's a unicorn. You don't see them. As far as modified, a Camaro with an LS9 and a T56 ripping around the track sounds like a lot of fun. So I'd probably take that. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Challenger more than likely.
So that's interesting. So when I was looking into this, it said Camaro guys, they value the control and precision and finesse, where the Challenger likes the power, the presence, the straight line just right down the track.
Yeah.
So with that, tell me about yourself. How the heck did a modified married race car driver, and that's a little inside joke we have, but how'd you end up at WKS?
Yeah, I mean, I started my career in operations. I had a facilities manager supporting my restaurant who saw something in me and gave me a shot. Spent a lot of years as a technician. Ended up leaving restaurants entirely, going into a short stint with an animal company, veterinary services, things like that. Became a director of facilities. And then somebody that I supported for a long time in facilities, a district leader, reached out randomly. I wasn't looking for an opportunity. And knowing me and my family and her working at WKS now, she said, hey, they have an RFM role open, and I really think your family would love you being here. And so, yeah, I applied, and I've been here for about 14 months. Nice. And I love it.
Nice. One of the things we talked about WKS was something that you loved about was the culture there. And we talked about the importance of culture. And as facility managers, y'all are part of that culture because y'all deal directly with the operators. So how do you see WKS's culture fitting with your operators?
Yeah. So, ultimately, culture is number one, period. People culture has to be number one for any facility support team, at least an internal team, to feel like they're one with operations, right? You hear a lot of separation between the two, but ultimately we have the same goals, and we're here to support them, right? And so people culture is everything. From the facility side, having technicians who buy into that people culture, and they're entering restaurants with the mindset of positivity and solution-based thinking, right? And that they're there to support is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, and that's a great segue because you're kind of WKS is kind of old school in a sense that y'all actually have in-house technicians.
Yeah.
And so what do they fully own? I mean, I think you told me the other day you made a call to one of your guys and he was on the roof doing an install. So Tell me about your technicians, your in-house technicians.
Oh, man. The obvious one is they own the condition of the buildings they support, right, as we all do. I think as an RFM sitting at a desk, possibly 2-3 states away, I also own that condition, right? And pretty sure everyone at the support center would feel the same way as well. Um, but ultimately, I think that the technicians own the temperature between operations and facilities from the ground level, right? So they're boots on the ground, they're in there supporting, um, giving the perception of facilities supporting, even if that technician is not making the repair to support them, it's something outside of our wheelhouse, or we have to bring a vendor in. Just having that technician there to take that stress off of an operator, and show support in that way, show that they're not alone while the restaurant's closed or whatever's going on, is huge.
You know, it's this isn't one of my favorite sayings because AI says it a lot, but it really is a I see you moment
Yeah.
for the operators to have those technicians come in, and they are the middleman. They're the face for you. And so as a leader and leading these guys, what do you look for in technicians that you're working with, that you bring into the in-house?
Yeah, that's a great question. Open-mindedness, more than anything. I look for good people, right? There's a lot of people I've come to learn that know how to fix a lot of things, but their mentality's not right. Their attitude's not right. I'll take somebody who can't fix a leaky faucet, but they show up with a smile, wanting to help, over somebody who knows how to rebuild an entire building. I think that's the most important thing to look for, is just an overall good person who wants to help.
That's that's a great point. I tell people all the time in my world is somebody says, "Oh, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed." No,
Right.
you didn't wake up on the wrong side of the bed. You chose it. And we have that choice each day of how we're going to affect people, how we're going to impact people, and leadership like you and I talked about, you have a servant leadership style. And that translates to your team, which translates to the operators, and ultimately, bottom line, the guest wins for you guys.
Yeah.
So there is some spots where I know that, like you said, your operators, I mean your technicians, they can't always do what they need to be done, what needs to be done. The repairs are copious. There might be a region where they'd have to drive 4 hours to get to. With 400 stores, that's a lot. So, where do you draw the line and say, okay, I got to call in somebody else to get this done?
Yeah, I mean, that's a loaded question. There's a lot of things that I have to take into account, right? The drive time was a good point. If it's not just that they have to travel or drive, I have technicians who drive from Utah to Colorado to Vegas, but I also have to weigh the fact that they are being removed from a market that has needs as well, right? And so I look at the need, and I look at how crucial is it for the business, for the people culture, guest experience. What's going to be the quicker avenue to get it done while also protecting the financials of WKS, right? So there's a whole lot that goes into it. I might have a tech who, as an example, they can get a crane and replace a unit, but that's an all-day job, and there's 10 other work orders that we would end up sending to vendors. So I might have the vendor do it for a couple $1,000s and then go tackle the 10 to 15 work orders, right? You weigh every situation a little bit different, and then there's another part of that too I got to mention, not to be too long-winded, but communicating with the operator leaders, right? The district leaders, the supervisors on my team, and weighing in the severity of the situation, when it needs to get done, and then making the best decision.
So, fascinating points there because traditionally most people think about, especially from a third party facility service company, we think about, okay, you just call us, we take care of everything. But you pointed out there's a lot of discretion put in and thought process put into your every move that you make. It's almost like a game of chess that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the second part is, you said my favorite word, and it's communication.
Oh,
And I really think in the world of AI, that's sometimes, and technology itself, sometimes we lose our focus on communication because we think that a email or a update in Corrigo or whatever software platform, that's good enough. And what I talk to people about all the time is pick up the phone. and call the FM, talk to the FM. So with vendors and your technicians, do you try to make sure those are calls? And if you do, why is that?
Yeah, internally with the technicians, especially, I'm lucky enough to have a coordinator on my team who talks to the technicians a little more than I do. I'm more so focused on the supervisor aspect, but over communicating, I think is the best way to put it. I don't think you can say a phone call alone is sufficient, but the phone call does allow that human aspect, which is super, super important in partnerships with vendors or technicians or operators, right? Um, but over communicating, putting have that conversation and then send a follow up email, or have that conversation and put the note on the work order. Yeah, we phone calls are super important because of that human aspect, in my opinion.
And it goes down to building that relationship.
Yeah,
And building relationships are built on trust. And I think that's where a lot of people think that, okay, they trust me because I just sent this update. But talking back and forth really builds that trust, whether it be with an in-house technician, an operator, or just anybody on your team.
right.
And I think with AI, that's something that we're getting away from. And I think eventually we're going to see a shift back into how important verbal communication is. And so I'm going to ask you, because we're talking about AI, and I think you and I have something in common. We might be a little geekish about AI.
Mhm.
So, how do you use AI every day in your work?
Oh, tons of ways. We actually have leadership here at WKS who pushes the use of AI in a lot of ways. We have a phenomenal IT team who is working with multiple departments, including ours, creating integrating AI in different ways. We've started pushing our technicians to use it. Right? Ask AI, ask it a question. If you're dealing with something, we use it as well. If you want to quickly compare something, or draft something and get some knowledge outside of Google, a little quicker. We currently have an AI program created called Nova that is working with our CMMS platform, and the stores can actually call Nova and it will troubleshoot with them. And then if the troubleshooting doesn't work, it creates the work order for them. So they no longer have to go to the back of house computer. And there's a slew of different things that Nova can do. Kind of cool. Nova's named after my dog, so she'll live forever. But
Are you
yeah,
serious?
yeah. So I was really skeptical on AI, at the beginning. I think like everyone else was, and I still have, certain areas where I am, but the use of AI is, I think it's crucial and super beneficial for what we do every day.
And when you were talking about that, and you were talking about Nova, the cool thing about that is, the word that came to mind is efficient. And I think a lot of times it goes back to the operators understanding what's going on. A lot of times operators will see a tech on their phone and they think, what, why are they texting? I'm paying them, or
Right,
whatever. And the
right,
reality is they're using a tool like AI to help troubleshoot. And that ultimately, I believe, is what AI is a tool to help, and to help people learn, gain knowledge. So let's go on to the next topic per se. Um, Obviously, you have to use outside vendors,
right.
and the reality of it is, because, like we said, it's a chess game. So, what makes an outside vendor feel like part of the WKS team? Because there's a great culture there, and so how do you, as a RFM, help kind of keep that culture while bringing in somebody from the outside?
Yeah, it's a balancing act, right? And it's when I say that, you're balancing a partnership with an outside vendor while ultimately at the end of the day keeping your brand at the forefront, right? I'm forever going to have WKS's back no matter what, right? But it all comes down to honesty, right? If I need to be honest with that vendor, tell them what's working, what's not working. Going over pricing that is being questioned or we disagree with. And then on the vendor side, it's the same thing. It's honesty, right? Hey, we can't get to this, or this is out of our wheelhouse, or this is a market that we're struggling to find someone for this specific trade. Things like that go a long way with me, and I'd go on a limb to say all
Yeah.
FMs, because it allows us the opportunity to pivot. Right, the stringing along is where I think that trust is broken. Like, oh, we'll have a quote by the end of the day, and that goes on for 2 weeks. Well, that's 2 weeks that the problem wasn't solved. So, being honest, I think people nowadays have a hard time saying I don't know. And that's the biggest thing for me. Just because I get told by a vendor we can't do this work order, it doesn't mean I'm not going to send you any more work. But if you burn me, right, there's a good chance I'm not going to send you any more business.
And that is so true about the balancing act, because as a outside vendor, they don't want to say no to the work order, so they automatically accept, and then it sits there with no communication,
Right.
no follow up. And I always tell our team, and I know the VP's operations with our company tell our team, if you get a message that says, "Can we get an update?" It's too late. We
Right.
need to make sure that we're in front. And that's kind of where, are you seeing a more proactive shift in facilities rather than reactive?
Internally, that's what we're really, really striving on going into 2026. Nobody wants to be putting out fires. I think preventing the fires is a lot more important and beneficial to the company. The vendor aspect, it really depends. It really depends on the vendor, the partnership, where we're at in our development of that partnership. But I would say there's a fairly good drive in the industry in general to be more proactive than reactive.
And I was at a meeting the other day, a conference, and they were talking about the whole world is shifting to being proactive in the world of facilities. And you think about it, some companies that you've probably worked for, they hear PM and the CFO just shudders,
Right.
because PM, he doesn't understand, or he doesn't have the insight of what being proactive can do for him in the long run.
Right. Absolutely.
So when you bring in outside vendors, what is something that they misunderstand about working hand in hand with your in-house teams?
Well, that's a good one. Something that a vendor misunderstands working hand in hand with in-house teams. Um, there's not a lot of companies, restaurant companies with in-house that are performing refrigeration and HVAC, and I feel like some of the bigger vendors who do work for other companies that do have in-house techs um, are not used to the technicians being as savvy as they are here. It's a really big benefit to us, right? Like you mentioned earlier, I have a lot of technicians who are, if I randomly call, they're on a roof replacing a unit. Them and another guy, or them and a supervisor. And so sending them out when something doesn't sound right, like a compressor's bad on an ice machine, right? The tech would be like, "Hey, or supervisor, let me go take a look at that first." And there's not always, right? Majority of the time vendors are trustworthy, but there's been some times where it's like, hey, this compressor is perfectly fine, right? And so it's definitely a leg up, and I don't think vendors account for that when they're in the stores.
It, and what I'm hearing, and I hate to say it in this manner, but sometimes there's a control issue.
Yeah.
Because you brought up a great point. If your tech says, no, the compressor's fine, after you've got one that said, oh, no, we need to replace that, obviously they've got to understand that there's checks and balances. And that's a huge benefit of having an in-house team, is you do have those checks and balances. And I know that you appreciate it, because I've seen vendor quotes go out the door for HVAC, and it's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
not from Hero, but from other ones. Excuse me. So let's talk about. We had a long talk the other day, and we talked about your younger self. What
Ooh.
would your younger self be surprised about you today that you care about it?
What would my younger self be surprised that I care about now?
Yeah,
Other people, right? My focus is other people, whether it's my family, my friends, or when I'm at work, um, it's the operators, it's my technicians, my supervisors, my coordinator. Um, I don't think my younger self would believe how selfless I've become. Yeah,
that
I
is
think that's how I can put it.
selfless is such a beautiful word. It's something that I think we can all look back at our younger days, and as we grow older, the hair starts turning gray or
Yeah,
falling out, and we get the gray on the beard. Which, by the way, I used to have a beard till I had a trimmer attack. I put a straight line right through my mustache. I was like, "There's no saving this."
yeah, you're
So
doomed.
hence the baby face. But that younger you, when we go back and we look at some of the stuff we did in our past and the things we did, and now we look at ourselves now, and I think we as humans, we don't pat ourselves on the back enough for the growth that we've had. And I know we've talked some personal stories, and there's growth happening even for me at 55.
Right.
And it's super cool when you can look back and go, wow, my knucklehead was doing that,
Yeah.
and here I am today. So we're going to have some time to talk about this because I'm going to dig a little deeper with you. This is the one question that I heard probably 8 months ago, and I started using it for every show because it's just kind of a catch all, and it's fun. So I'm going to make you think here.
Okay.
What's the one question I didn't know to ask you, but I should have?
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, Facilities is oftentimes in shadows, right? Or only um, brought into situations when things are ultimately negative, right? It's an emergency or something's broken or a store is closed or there's a safety issue. A lot of facilities guys would say it's a thankless role, right? I think the one question that's really important is what do I find rewarding in facilities management?
Go for it.
I mean, I've kind of answered it throughout the segment so far, but it's people. 100% it's people. And regardless of having an in-house team, I've been in roles where I do not have an in-house team. And that answer has never shifted and will never shift. Much like an operator who's serving guests and developing people in the restaurant. There's a cool story. There's two cool stories that I can relate to that on why people are so big for me. I had a general manager who had executive leadership in his restaurant, and someone, they found something broken, and I was a technician at the time, and one of the responses was, "Oh, we don't know. We sent a work order to Josh. It's been months. He'll get to it when he gets to it." Right? One of the typical facilities answers, and the general manager stood up in front of executive leadership and said, "We don't talk about Josh like that in my restaurant. When we have an issue, Josh is here and he supports us and he teaches us." And so that's one story that I keep with me. I'm still in contact with that GM many, many years later. And I use him as an example to my technicians of how to build a partnership with the general manager. The operators of the restaurant are what truly, truly matter. Are they supported? Do they have the tools to do their job? And the second story to people is we used to teach an ownership class, and we'd bring coffee and donuts, and managers would come in and we'd show them how to test for gas leaks or repair faucets or replace power cords and plugins, the simple things, right? I think 6 or 7 years go by. I'm in a restaurant. This gentleman walks in, I don't recognize, and he says, "Hey, Josh, you probably don't remember me, but I attended one of the first ownership classes, and I just wanted to tell you how much that meant to me, even outside of business. If my dog chews my vacuum power cord, $4.99 and a screwdriver and wire cutters, I don't have to go buy a new vacuum, or I don't have to call an electrician for $300-400 to replace a light switch, right?" And I think that was early on what really clicked with me, that we have an impact on culture outside of the restaurant. In the restaurant, absolutely, that's what we're there for. But even outside of the restaurant with the younger generations.
That's, I knew that our conversation would turn to, excuse me, our beliefs and our passions, because when we talked, it was just automatic.
Right.
And that's one of the things that's so impactful is life, is we don't know when we're going to have that chance to actually impact people. And if we don't speak up and don't say it, then we'll never know. Uh,
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, being an RFM, if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about facilities maintenance, what would it be?
Ooh, unlimited budgets. No, no, not unlimited budgets. I would say more time in the day. More
Okay.
time in the day, right? Having an in-house team, I think it's one of the hardest balancing acts is making sure I'm giving my team the time they deserve in their development and supporting them, but also working with other leaders in operations and things like solving problems and things like that. Sometimes, not enough time in the day.
So it's almost like you're the circus leader with three rings going on at one time.
Right, right.
So, which, chaos in the facility world, some people don't necessarily enjoy that word because they think it's you're losing control, but it really should be called being on your feet
Yeah.
and multitasking. So, another question I have for you: if I asked you in facilities, what hill will you die on? What are you going to die on?
Oh, another good one. PMs on a consistent basis are the most important thing in facilities. As
Okay.
far as keeping a restaurant operating, PMs of not everyone thinks of just HVAC, obviously, right? That's the obvious one, but equipment PMs, water heater and plumbing PMs, and site walks of the entire building. I think a PM is single-handedly the most important aspect of facilities management.
What happens if I'm the CFO and I just cringed? How do you talk to them? I mean, what's the magic sauce?
Well, you mentioned AI a few times. Luckily, we have data now, right? And we have technology, and years and years and years of industry data showing the effects of PMs and how they affect business revenue. So it's not a hard sell anymore like it used to be.
Okay, so last question, I promise. I'm not going to throw any curveballs to you. What is one thing that you're grateful today for?
Oh man, one thing.
Yeah.
Um, Everyone who has invested in me, whether it's family, business. Like I said, I'm in facilities because there was a facilities manager who's still a dear friend of mine who took a chance. And my family has supported me, obviously, the entire way. And here at WKS, the leadership here has supported me in tremendous ways. So everyone along this long journey and road who's poured into me in some way.
Well, Josh, I'm grateful for you today, and I'm grateful for you joining me on the show. And I
Yeah.
truly appreciate the time you took out of your day, because I know that the texts are going off and Corrigo's going off, and you're trying not to look down.
I've tried really hard. I have.
But we appreciate you, and I'm grateful for you. And thanks for your time today. And come join us on the next one. We're going to have it next week. We're going to have Michelle Preston with Copeland Group. Al Copeland Investments, I'm sorry. And I'll see you then. Josh, appreciate you, brother. Be
Thank you
blessed.
for having me. Thank you.
That is